everybody, welcome to In the Red Zone. Today we're going to be talking about why Minnesota cannot compete for the Big Ten West. And you're probably wondering, especially if you're not a Minnesota fan, why am I making this video? Why do I care what Minnesota is going to do? And the truth is, I'm surprised as anybody that I have to make this video, but I'll explain to you why I'm doing this right now. This all started with a tweet with conference predictions from Ryan Leaf. Yes, that Ryan Leaf. The Ryan Leaf who was the biggest bust in NFL history. He's back. He's with ESPN, and he's a college football analyst. And he tweeted his Big Ten predictions, and this is what he had right there. No surprise in the East, but in the West, he has Minnesota winning the Big Ten West, finishing 9-3. So, why does that matter? Well, normally it wouldn't, except that it kind of blew up because I made reference in another tweet back about how in 2017, former Ohio State wide receiver Joey Galloway, who's now an ESPN analyst, he predicted Baylor to win the Big 12, which was shocking, and at the time everyone thought, what the heck are you thinking? And of course, Baylor goes on to finish 1-11. So I said that this was Ryan Leaf's Galloway moment, and so many Minnesota fans took that to say that I believe Minnesota is going to finish 1-11. Not at all. And basically, I ruffled a bunch of Gopher fur up north. So that caused a lot of people to clap back at me on Twitter with some tweets, such as pointing out they have 3 difficult games, though all winnable, doesn't validate your comparing them to a 1-11 team. I never compared them to a 1-11 team. The next tweet. You apparently didn't watch the last 4 games of 2018 after defensive coordinator change, don't understand the roster makeup, and haven't looked at the schedule. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? Another one with some stats from last year. Crushed Purdue 41-10, Wisconsin 37-15, and Georgia Tech 34-10 over the final 4 games. They returned running backs with 6,503 yards and 52 touchdowns, has a right-sided offensive line that's 6'5", 340, 6'9", 400. Have wide receiver Tyler Johnston back, who had 1,169 yards and 12 touchdowns, and they have a manageable schedule. The guys are in the zone, the twilight zone. And 2 more tweets. Leafs picks are smart. Your take is not very well informed regarding Big Ten football. Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, and Wisconsin are basically interchangeable, and Minnesota having the most manageable schedule. Any of these 4 will win the West, maybe even Northwestern. The next tweet, really a shame they let anybody on Twitter and let them play a persona as a sports analyst. What a bunch of crap. I mean, so another tweet that I ended up seeing later on was somebody said, you know, please explain why you don't think Minnesota can compete for the Big Ten West. And I said I would make a video and I would explain my reasoning here on YouTube. And so, and it happened to be that Ryan Leaf's predictions came out just at the same time that we released our Big Ten predictions on YouTube, and you can go watch that video if you want. That we talk about the Big Ten, and to be truthful, we really just talked about the top teams in each division, and we really just kind of glossed over or skipped over the teams that we feel are going to finish in the bottom. That includes Minnesota. I have them in my picks being 1 notch above Illinois in the West, and I'll tell you why here in just a few minutes. But we really glossed over it. We didn't talk a lot about those teams. So here, this video is for you Gopher fans about why I don't think you're going to compete in the Big Ten West. And let's start off with your schedule. This is your schedule, and this is from fbschedules.com, so I took this from them. First game, South Dakota State, winnable game. Fresno State, if you're looking past Fresno State, you're making a mistake, especially because of all the key areas that Minnesota has to deal with new positions, changing guys around. The chemistry may not be there for the first 4 games, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but Fresno State is going to be a problem for Minnesota. Georgia Southern should be a win. Then you have a bye week. Purdue returns an offense that's explosive, very explosive with Rondell Moore. It's not a lock that you're going to beat Purdue, not at all. Illinois should be a win. Nebraska, everybody's picking Nebraska to win the West. Some even think they're going to be a college football playoff team. I think they're going to be really, really good with Adrian Martinez. Scott Frost's second year, he's got a lot of talent coming in. I don't think they're going to win the Big Ten West. I have Iowa win the Big Ten West, but they're going to be really good, and I don't think Minnesota can beat Nebraska. Rutgers should be a win. Maryland, you don't know about Maryland. Maryland, it depends on when we get to this game, October 26th, that's all going to depend on Maryland's how healthy they are. Because when they're healthy, they are potent, they're dangerous. They beat Texas 2 years in a row. They took Ohio State to the wire. If you are thinking that that's an automatic win for Minnesota, you would be wrong. That could easily be another loss right there. Penn State, I believe, is a loss. Iowa's going to be a loss. Northwestern should be a win, but you can never, ever count Northwestern out. And then Wisconsin, I believe, is another loss. Wisconsin has the best running back duo, or the best running back tandem in all of the Big Ten. They have Hornibrook, who was not that productive for them at quarterback, transferred to Florida State. They got this Mertz guy coming in, a true freshman. I get it, he's a true freshman. High recruited prospect, turned down Alabama, Clemson, and Georgia to go to Wisconsin. That doesn't mean he's going to be the greatest quarterback in the Big Ten this year. Not at all. He's a true freshman. But he should be an improvement over Hornibrook. And Wisconsin always has a really good offensive line. You kind of put that together, and Wisconsin, they're kind of back. I mean, I don't think they win the Big Ten West this year, but they're kind of back. So, you go through that right there, and I said that I think Minnesota's looking at probably a 6-6 season, maybe 5-7, and I think that's realistic. Now, I had a lot of people giving me like, well, we've got this guy doing this, and this guy lost weight, and this guy, and he's got this guy. But you know what? Let me just throw some things out about Minnesota real quick. So basically, Minnesota has two quarterbacks, and you know what the saying is: if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. They have Zach Anistad and Tanner Morgan. Anistad's basically a passer. Morgan's basically a thrower. Morgan last year, 89 for 152, 1,401 yards, a 58.6 completion percentage, 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and he took 11 sacks. Anistad, 97 of 187, 1,277 yards, a 51.9% completion percentage, 9 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 16 sacks. That's 27 sacks on the season for these two quarterbacks. And Anistad, his 16 sacks was a total loss of 106 yards. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, that's not very good. So I know these guys are 1 year older, but thinking that they are somehow going to be these great quarterbacks or going to lead Minnesota's offense, I mean, I don't see it. I mean, they're okay. They're manageable. But really, I would feel better about Minnesota if P.J. Fleck just picked a quarterback and that was his ride or die and he went with him. I don't think that the two quarterback system works in 2019. They might be able to prove us wrong, but I just don't think so. And I think that's a detriment to that offense, which is returning all but 2 starters. So I think they're weak at quarterback. They're very weak at quarterback. Mohamed Ibrahim had 202 rushes, 1,160 yards, 5.7 average with 9 touchdowns. Rodney Smith, who actually got hurt, 25 rushes, 154, but he had 6.2 average when he did play. At wide receiver, you guys are very, very strong at wide receiver. Tyler Johnston returns, 1,169 yards, 12 touchdowns, the only receiver over 1,000 yards. You also have Rashawn Bateman, 51 receptions, 704 yards, 6 touchdowns. So pretty solid out there at wide receiver if you've got the quarterbacks that can get them the ball. But you've got problems, I believe, at the offensive line. So two of those starters that you lost were on the offensive line. You lose left tackle Donnell Green, replaced by Jason Dixon, who didn't play a single snap last year. And then you have center Jared Weiler. He's gone, and he's replaced by Connor Olson, who actually played guard last year. So you got your guard moving to center. That's a problem in the first half of the year. They got about 20 days of practice, 25 days of practice before the first game, and you're asking a guy who played guard who's now playing center. That is a completely different set of calls, of techniques. Everything is different when you move. Moving guys around, shuffling guys around like that is a sign that you don't have depth on the offensive line. You don't have guys to plug in there who are ready to go. That's going to cause continuity and chemistry problems up front. Ohio State saw it in 2014 when they won the national championship. The first half of the year, they were horrible on the offensive line. It's going to take 4 or 5 games before these guys start to gel. Another reason why you shouldn't look past Fresno State, because I don't think this offense for Minnesota is really going to get going the way they probably will at the end of the year, at the first of the year. So you also have at right guard Blaise Andreas, who, from what I've read, may not even end up being on the team at the end of the year because apparently he's got off-field issues. But we don't need to talk about that. But he's a redshirt freshman who's never played a snap. So you got a redshirt freshman who's never played a snap at right guard. And then at right tackle, you got Daniel Falale. He's a true sophomore, and he's pretty good. I mean, he's a bright spot on that offensive line. Really, really great at right tackle. But you're at left tackle, that's a huge, huge problem because left tackle is very, very important part of that offensive line. And while you might be kind of strong on the right side, you're very weak on the left side, and you're not just going to run to one side the whole game, I mean, for the whole season. So to say Minnesota's offensive line is strong would be, you're just not being realistic. So, so while the offense might be explosive, why they might score some points, they're not going to be at the level of an Ohio State or a Michigan, which I know they don't have to play this year. They're probably not even going to be at the level of Nebraska when it comes to offense. Probably be better than Iowa, probably won't be better than Wisconsin. So that's what we have to look forward to with Minnesota as far as offense goes. On defense, they lose defensive back Jacob Huff. As a defensive back, he had 60 solo tackles, had 93 solo tackles last year from Minnesota on their defense. He's gone. Now, you guys talk about how they were strong on defense the last 4 games of the season. When your second leading tackler on your defense comes from the secondary, you've got problems, big problems on defense, and he's gone. Your leading tackler, Blake Cashman, 104 tackles, the only one over 100 tackles. He's gone. He's with the Jets now. The team had 23 sacks last year on defense. The defense got 23 sacks. 9.5 of those came from Carter Coughlin. He's back. He will play defensive end. However, while he is very strong and would normally be an anchor, Minnesota is likely going to be starting two true freshmen at defensive tackles. 2 true freshmen at defensive tackle in the Big Ten playing defense. I mean, how can you think that defense is going to be strong when you're starting 2 true freshmen at defensive tackle? What that's likely going to do, if these guys do play well and step up, that's great, but more likely what's going to happen is teams are going to start double teaming Coughlin, and that's going to kind of neutralize him, and he's probably not going to be as effective as he was last year. In the secondary, I mean, wow. I mean, the secondary for Minnesota is going to be abysmal. You have Antoine Winfield Jr. returning. He was injured last year. He's coming back. That kid's pretty good. That kid's pretty good. After that, it's a toss-up. A bunch of unproven guys. Probably a true freshman going to be starting at corner or maybe the other safety. Not sure yet, but it's going to be a true freshman. Somebody who's going to get picked on. At the end of the day, what I see is a very, very weak defense for Minnesota. I do not see them capable of competing at the top level of the Big Ten with that defense. There's way too many new pieces, new parts. Now, what I will say is these guys all stick around. They all develop the way they're supposed to. And in 2 years, Minnesota is going to have one heck of a defense. But this year, not happening. Their secondary coach also, they got a new secondary coach because their coach from last year bolted to West Virginia. Really, that's all I have to say about Minnesota. So, you know, I'm not going to sit here and try to break down every single team in the Big Ten and everything, but this is my belief. This is what I believe in with Minnesota. This is why I don't think that they can win the Big Ten West. This is why I don't believe they're going to compete for the Big Ten West. They're still another year or 2 away, and the reality is, again, on offensive line, when you're shuffling guys and you don't have somebody ready you can just plug in, that's a problem, especially in the Big Ten. A problem for Minnesota, I believe, this year. They might be competitive for the first half, even the first 3 quarters. But at the end of the day, if you don't have depth, in the fourth quarter, you fall behind. That's when you really lose games because you don't have the guys who can come in and sub out and keep you strong, keep you fresh. The Michigans and the Penn States and Ohio State and Nebraska, Iowa, they have that. They have the depth. Minnesota just does not have depth right now. They just don't. So I'm not here to try to offend any Minnesota fans. I don't hate Minnesota or anything like that. I actually like them. I've always rooted for them. I like PJ Fleck. I think he's a great coach. I just think if you took a step back and you take a look at all the stats and the pieces they're losing and 2 true freshmen starting a defensive line, you plug all that in and you take the name Minnesota away and you plug in any other team name on there, even you Minnesota fans would look at that and be like, they're not going to compete. So I've seen in most publications, even with the Big Ten Network, they've got Minnesota towards the bottom. The only place where I've seen them higher than that was some local Minnesota guys who have them up there maybe 9-3. I just don't see that happening. I mean, I think they're maybe 6-6, probably 5-7. They could be 7-5. I mean, that's possible. And then depending on who they draw for a bowl game, they might win that. So we'll have to see. I mean, we'll see how this plays out. Here's what I'm going to tell Minnesota fans, especially those on Twitter. This is what I'm going to say to you. If I'm wrong, I'll admit it, and I'll come right back here. If Minnesota finishes first or second in the Big Ten West, if they finish first or second, I will come back on here for our video when we predict the conference championship games, and I will be wearing a Minnesota sweatshirt, and I may even do some other things. As far whatever you guys do, comment. What do you want me to do? If I'm wrong about my pick, if I'm wrong about Minnesota, what do you want me to do on camera? I'll do whatever, short of stripping and being naked or something. But I will do whatever. I'll do something, So just let me know. Watch our video from the Big Ten predictions if you're a Big Ten fan. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel if you like our content. If this is the first time you've seen any of our videos during the year, every single week we pick about 20 to 25 games against the spread. This is our third year. Over the past 2 years, we've been about 60 to 63% right in all of our picks every week, or that's our average, 63%. We trailed off just a little bit at the end of last year, but we've been really solid. We didn't think that was a good percentage, but some people have pointed out that even some of the best guys who charge a lot of money for picks are only around the 56, 58%. So we're up there. So obviously we tell people that, betting, it's gambling, you could lose. So gamble responsibly if you're going to do sports betting or anything like that. But again, thank you for watching this video. Please go check out some of our other videos. Please like this video. If you watched it, please subscribe to our channel. And we look forward to seeing you again next time. And please comment, leave your comments below. Thank you.